The lights on the control panel flickered red as Lieutenant Commander Maya Rodriguez watched the screens in the Deep Space Monitoring Station. She had been working the night shift at Arecibo 2 orbital station for 3 years, and nothing interesting ever happened. Most nights, she just listened to empty space and watched numbers scroll across her computer screen. "Another quiet night," she said to herself, reaching for her coffee cup. The hot liquid had gone cold hours ago, but she drank it anyway. Outside the thick windows of the station, Earth looked like a blue marble floating in the darkness. Sometimes Maya wondered if there was anyone else out there. Looking back at them, the main computer started beeping. Maya looked at the screen and saw something strange. The deep space antenna was picking up a signal, but it was not coming from any known source. The energy readings were off the charts, showing power levels that should not be possible. "What the hell?" Maya said, setting down her coffee cup. She started typing commands into the computer, trying to figure out what was happening. The signal was getting stronger by the second, and the station's equipment was struggling to handle it. Dr. Alex Bennett was sleeping in his quarters when the emergency alarm woke him up. He was the station's expert on alien languages, though he had never actually found any aliens to study. Most of his work involved looking at radio signals from space and trying to figure out if they meant anything. "Maya, what's going on?" Alex asked as he rushed into the control room, still wearing his sleeping clothes. "I don't know," Maya replied, her fingers flying across the keyboard. "We're getting some kind of massive signal from deep space. The computer says it's coming from outside our solar system, but that's impossible. Nothing can send a signal that's strong over such a long distance." The station's main computer started making new sounds. Instead of the usual beeping, it was now making a low humming noise that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The lights in the control room started flashing in patterns that neither Maya nor Alex had ever seen before. "Maya, look at this," Alex said, pointing at his computer screen. "The signal isn't just noise. There's structure to it, like it's some kind of language or code." Maya looked at Alex's screen and felt her heart start beating faster. The patterns on the screen looked like they were made by someone who was trying to communicate. But that was impossible, because there was no one out there to communicate with, far away. In a part of space that humans had never seen, something was going very wrong on an alien ship. The ship was long and silver, with strange designs carved into its hull. Inside the ship, creatures that looked nothing like humans were running around in panic. Fleet Admiral Cretan was standing in the command center of his ship, looking at screens that showed him things he did not want to see. He was tall and thin, with 4 arms and skin that looked like it was made of metal. His large eyes were focused on the data streaming across his screens. "How did this happen?" Cretan asked his crew. His voice sounded like metal scraping against stone. "Sir, our probe was doing a routine scan of the system," replied one of his officers. "It was supposed to be a secret mission. We were just looking for planets that might be useful to the Empire." "But something went wrong," Cretan said, his voice getting louder. "Our probe has made contact with something in that system. Something that should not exist." The probe that Cretan was talking about was a small, round device that had been floating near Earth for several months. It was invisible to human technology, or at least it was supposed to be. The probe was designed to watch planets and send information back to the Velterix Empire about any life forms it found. The probe had been watching Earth for weeks, taking pictures and recording data about the humans who lived there. According to the probe's programming, humans were supposed to be a primitive species that had not yet learned to travel between stars. They should have been using simple tools and living in small groups, but something had gone wrong during the probe's latest scan. A massive energy surge from the human space station had created a connection between the probe and the station's computers. Now, the probe was sending all of its secret information directly to the humans, and it could not stop. Back on the space station, Maya and Alex were watching in amazement as their computers filled up with alien data. The information was coming too fast for them to understand it all, but they could see star maps, pictures of strange planets, and what looked like military plans. "Alex, are you seeing this?" Maya asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I can't believe it," Alex replied, staring at his screen. "This is real. We're actually receiving communication from an alien civilization." The alien data was not just pictures and maps. There were also files that seemed to contain information about other planets and the creatures that lived on them. Many of the files were marked with symbols that Alex thought might mean conquered or destroyed. "Maya, I think we need to call Captain Torres," Alex said, his face turning pale. "This isn't just first contact. I think we're looking at invasion plans." Captain Torres was the head of Earth's Defense Initiative, a small organization that was supposed to protect the planet from threats from space. Most people thought his job was a waste of time, because everyone knew there was nothing dangerous out there. But Torres had always believed that someday something would come from the stars. When Maya called Torres, he was eating dinner with his family. He almost did not answer the phone because he was tired of false alarms and computer glitches. But something in Maya's voice made him pick up the call. "Captain, you need to get up here right away," Maya said. "We've made contact." Torres felt his heart skip a beat. "Contact with what?" "Aliens, sir. And I think they're already on their way here." On the alien ship, Fleet Admiral Cretan was reading reports that made his blood run cold. The energy readings from the third planet in the system were showing power levels that should only be possible for advanced civilizations. The probes. Data suggested that the humans had technology that was far beyond what the Velterix Empire had expected. "Sir, what are your orders?" asked War Commander Thekmore, Cretan's second in command. Cretan looked at the data one more time. According to their information, humans had been classified as a Class 7 extinction risk. This was a rating that the Empire only used for species that could threaten entire galaxies. The last time they had encountered a Class 7 species, half of their fleet had been destroyed. "Send a message to the rest of the fleet," Cretan said, his voice filled with determination. "Tell them to prepare for immediate departure? We cannot allow this species to develop any further." "Sir, are you sure?" Thekmar asked. "Our intelligence might be wrong. The humans might not be as dangerous as we think." "Look at the data," Cretan replied, pointing at the screens around them. "They have already broken through our stealth technology. They have accessed our most secure networks. No primitive species should be able to do that." The truth was that the humans had not broken through anything. The connection between the probe and the space station had been an accident caused by equipment that was not working properly. But the aliens did not know this. To them, it looked like the humans had deliberately attacked their probe and stolen their secrets. As the alien fleet prepared to leave their current position, Captain Torres was racing through space toward the monitoring station. He had called an emergency meeting of all the world's leaders, but he knew it would take time for them to respond. In the meantime, he needed to understand exactly what they were dealing with. When Torres arrived at the station, Maya and Alex showed him the alien data that was still pouring into their computers. The information was overwhelming, but Torres could see enough to understand that Earth was in serious trouble. "How long do we have?" Torres asked. "According to this data, their fleet is already moving," Alex replied. "Based on the star charts, I think they're about a week away from our solar system." Torres felt the weight of the world on his shoulders. He was looking at evidence that a massive alien fleet was heading toward Earth, and he had no idea how to stop them. The aliens clearly had technology that was far beyond anything humans had ever built. But as Torres looked at the alien data, he noticed something strange. The invasion plans seemed to be designed for fighting primitive civilizations. The aliens were planning to use tactics that would work against people who had never seen advanced technology before. "Alex, look at this," Torres said, pointing at one of the files. "Their battle plans assume that we don't have space travel or advanced communications. They think we're still living in caves, but that doesn't make sense," Maya said. "If they think we're primitive, why are they bringing such a large fleet?" Torres stared at the data, trying to understand what he was seeing. Slowly, a terrible possibility began to form in his mind. What if the aliens were not coming because they thought humans were primitive? What if they were coming because they thought humans were too advanced? The alien fleet was already moving through space, racing toward Earth at speeds that humans could barely imagine. In just a few days, they would arrive at the edge of the solar system, ready to fight a war that neither side truly understood. General Patricia Walsh walked into the emergency meeting room with heavy steps. She had been woken up at 3 a.m. by a phone call that changed everything. Around the large table sat the most important people on Earth: presidents, prime ministers, and military leaders from every major country. "Ladies and gentlemen," General Walsh began, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. "What I'm about to tell you will sound impossible, but it's real. We have confirmed contact with an alien civilization, and they are heading toward Earth. With a massive war fleet." The room erupted in voices. Some people shouted questions, others demanded proof, and a few just sat in shocked silence. General Walsh raised her hand for quiet and turned on the large screen at the front of the room. "Captain Torres will explain what we know," she said. Captain Torres stepped forward, looking tired but determined. He had spent the last 18 hours studying the alien data, and what he had learned kept him awake at night. "The aliens call themselves the Valterix Empire," Torres began. "According to their own records, they have conquered 17 different worlds. But here's what's important. Every single one of those worlds was primitive when they attacked. Stone Age civilizations, early metal workers, nothing more advanced than basic agriculture. So why are they coming here with such a large fleet?" asked President Chun of the Pacific Federation. "That's the problem," Torres replied. "They think we're much more advanced than we actually are. The accidental connection between our space station and their probe has convinced them that we're a major threat to their empire." Dr. Elena Vasquez was not in the meeting room. She was back at the space station, working on the most important project of her life. Elena was a physicist who specialized in quantum mechanics, and she had discovered something that could change everything. The alien probe was still connected to their computer systems, sending data back and forth between Earth and the alien fleet. But Elena had figured out how to use this connection to spy on the aliens. She could read their messages, watch their preparations, and listen to their conversations. "Maya, you need to see this," Elena said, pointing at her computer screen. "I've been monitoring their communications, and they're terrified of us." Maya looked at the screen and saw translated alien text scrolling past. The messages were between the alien fleet commander and his officers, and they were discussing Earth like it was the most dangerous planet in the galaxy. "Listen to this," Elena said, reading from the screen. "Fleet Admiral Cretan says that our energy readings suggest we have mastered zero-point energy extraction. They think our global internet is a single military command network that covers the entire planet." "But that's crazy," Maya replied. "We're barely managing to keep a few space stations running." "It gets worse," Elena continued. "They think our civilian aircraft are some kind of atmospheric defense system. They've been watching our air traffic, and they believe we have millions of small fighter craft ready to defend Earth." On the alien flagship, War Commander Lekmore was studying the human data with growing concern. The energy readings from Earth were unlike anything the Valterix Empire had ever encountered. The planet seemed to be covered in a massive network of energy sources, communication systems, and what appeared to be military installations. "Sir, the humans have responded to our probe's presence," Lekmore reported to Fleet Admiral Cretan. "They've begun increasing their energy output across the entire planet. Every major landmass is showing signs of military preparation." Cretan looked at the data and felt his confidence wavering. The Valterix Empire had always won their wars by attacking weak, divided civilizations. But the humans appeared to be unified under a single command structure with technology that the Empire's scientists could not fully understand. "What about their space defenses?" Cretan asked. "That's what worries me most," Lekmore replied. "We can detect thousands of artificial objects in orbit around their planet. Some of them appear to be weapons platforms, others look like communication relays. But the strangest thing is that they're all connected to each other through some kind of quantum network. The truth was much simpler than the aliens realized. The thousands of artificial objects were mostly old satellites, space debris, and a few research stations. The quantum network was just radio communication between ground control and the International Space Station. But the aliens had never encountered a species that used such technology for peaceful purposes. Colonel James Harrison was in charge of turning Earth's limited space resources into a fighting force. He knew it was an impossible task, but he was determined to try. Harrison had been a military engineer for 20 years, and he had never faced a challenge this difficult. "What do we have to work with?" Harrison asked his team. "Not much, sir," replied Lieutenant Kim Foster. "We have the International Space Station, 2 research stations, and maybe a dozen satellites that could be modified for military use. Most of our rockets are designed for carrying supplies, not fighting wars." "Then we'll have to get creative," Harrison said. "Start retrofitting everything we can. Turn the research stations into weapons platforms, modify the satellites to carry explosives, and see if we can mount weapons on the space station." The work began immediately. Engineers and technicians worked around the clock to transform peaceful space equipment into instruments of war. Solar panels were removed and replaced with improvised weapons. Communication satellites were loaded with chemical explosives. The International Space Station was turned into a command center for Earth's desperate defense, but every modification created new energy signatures that the alien probes could detect. To the Veltarix Empire, it looked like the humans were activating hidden weapon systems that had been disguised as civilian equipment. Dr. Elena Vasquez continued monitoring the alien communications, and what she heard made her blood run cold. The aliens were not just bringing a war fleet. They were bringing their entire military force. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier the Empire could spare was heading toward Earth. "General Walsh, you need to hear this," Elena said over the emergency communication link. "I've been listening to their military briefings. They're not treating this like a normal invasion. They're treating it like they're facing an enemy that could destroy their entire civilization." "What do you mean?" General Walsh asked. "They keep talking about Class 7 extinction risk," Elena replied. "I've been trying to understand what that means, and I think it's their highest threat level. They only use it for species that could threaten entire galaxies." General Walsh felt sick. Earth's pathetic space defenses were being interpreted as signs of incredible military power. Every attempt to prepare for the coming invasion was making the aliens more convinced that humans were a deadly threat. Ambassador David Kim was trying to organize a peaceful response to the alien contact. He had spent his career negotiating with different countries, and he believed that any conflict could be resolved through communication and understanding. "We need to send them a message," Kim argued at the emergency meeting. "We need to explain that this is all a misunderstanding. We're not a threat to their empire." "How do we communicate with them?" asked President Martinez of the South American Alliance. "Dr. Vasquez has established a communication link through the probe," Kim replied. "We can send them messages and hopefully make them understand that we want peace." But every message Earth sent to the aliens was misinterpreted. The Veltarix Empire's translation computers were designed to analyze communications from primitive species. They had never encountered a civilization that used concepts like peaceful coexistence or mutual benefit. When Ambassador Kim sent a message saying, "We seek peaceful dialogue and mutual understanding," the alien computers translated it as, "We demand strategic negotiation and tactical assessment." When he wrote, "We are not a threat to your empire," the translation came out as, "We are evaluating your empire's vulnerabilities." The language barrier was making everything worse. Every attempt at peace was seen as a sign of aggression. Every offer of friendship was interpreted as a military threat. On the alien flagship, Fleet Admiral Kreetkan was reading the human messages with growing alarm. The humans seemed to be taunting the Veltarix Empire, challenging them to a fight while simultaneously demonstrating their advanced technology. "Sir, we're receiving another message from the Human Command Network," Vekmar reported. "What does it say?" Cretan asked. They're asking us to come in peace and share knowledge for the benefit of all species, Vecmore replied. Our translators think it means they want us to surrender our technology and join their galactic alliance? Cretan felt anger rising in his chest. The humans were so confident in their superior technology that they were demanding the Velterix Empire surrender before the battle even began. Increase our speed, Cretan ordered. We need to reach their system before they complete their preparations. The alien fleet was now moving at maximum speed toward Earth, 847 warships, each one capable of destroying entire cities, were racing through space toward a planet that had no idea how to defend itself. Colonel Harrison's desperate preparations were creating exactly the kind of energy, signatures that confirmed the aliens' worst fears. Every weapon system he activated, every satellite he modified, every communication he sent was being monitored by alien probes. Sir, we're detecting massive energy increases across the human planet, reported the alien science officer. They're bringing their planetary defense network online. How long until we reach their system? Cretan asked. Approximately 72 hours at current speed, Vecmore replied. Good, we'll catch them before they can complete their preparations. But Cretan was wrong. The humans were not preparing some advanced defense system. They were just trying to survive the next few days with whatever equipment they could find. The energy increases the aliens were detecting came from factories working overtime, power plants running at maximum capacity, and millions of people trying to understand what was happening to their world. Neither side understood what the other was really doing. The humans thought they were facing technologically superior aliens who would easily destroy Earth. The aliens thought they were facing an advanced civilization that could threaten the entire galaxy. Both sides were preparing for a war that neither of them wanted to fight. Commander Lisa Park stood on the bridge of the hastily converted cargo ship IS Endeavour, watching her screens with growing dread. The ship had been carrying supplies to Mars just 2 days ago, but now it was armed with improvised weapons and positioned at the edge of human space, as part of Earth's desperate defense fleet. Commander, we're getting readings from the outer system, reported Lieutenant Williams, her communications officer. Something big is coming through hyperspace. Lisa felt her heart start racing. This was it, the moment that would decide the fate of humanity. Through her telescope she could see the empty space beyond Neptune, but she knew that was about to change. All stations, this is Commander Park, she announced over the communication system. Prepare for contact. Remember, we're not just fighting for Earth, we're fighting for the survival of our entire species. The space around Neptune began to shimmer like heat waves rising from hot pavement. Then one by one, alien ships began to appear, first 10, then 50, then hundreds. Lisa watched in horror as the alien fleet materialized in front of her eyes. My God, whispered Lieutenant Williams. How many are there? I count 847 vessels, replied the ship's computer. All of them are significantly larger than our largest military ships. Lisa stared at the alien fleet in amazement and terror. The ships were beautiful in a deadly way, with sleek silver hulls and strange geometric patterns carved into their surfaces. They moved through space with grace and power, forming perfect formations that spoke of military discipline and advanced technology. They're not attacking, Lisa observed. They're taking defensive positions. This was true. The alien fleet had arranged itself in a defensive formation, with the larger ships protecting the smaller ones. It looked like they were expecting humanity to attack them rather than the other way around on Earth. Ambassador David Kim was working frantically to establish communication with the alien fleet. He had set up a communication center in the United Nations building with the best translators and linguists from around the world helping him. We need to make them understand that we're not a threat, Kim said to his team. Every minute we delay, the situation gets worse. Dr. Rebecca Stone, a language expert who had been studying the alien communications, looked up from her computer with a worried expression. Ambassador, I think I found the problem. Their translation system is fundamentally different from ours. They don't have words for concepts like peace negotiation or mutual cooperation. What do you mean? Kim asked. Their language seems to be designed for a military society, Rebecca explained. Every word has implications of dominance, submission, conquest, or defeat. When we try to say we come in peace, their system translates it as we come to evaluate your defenses. Kim felt a sinking feeling in his stomach. So every message we send is making them think we're threatening them? Exactly, Rebecca replied. And it gets worse. Their society appears to be based on the idea that there are only two types of species in the galaxy, those who conquer and those who are conquered. They don't understand the concept of equals working together. On the alien flagship, War Commander Thekmor was studying the human defensive positions with confusion. The human fleet was tiny compared to the Valterix force, consisting of only a few dozen ships scattered across the outer solar system. But Thekmor knew that appearances could be deceiving. Sir, the human formation doesn't make sense, Thekmor reported to Fleet Admiral Cretan. They have positioned their ships in a pattern that offers no defensive advantage. Either they're completely incompetent or this is some kind of trap. Cretan looked at the tactical display and frowned. The human ships were spread out in a loose formation that would be easy to destroy. But the Valterix Empire had learned to be suspicious of enemies who appeared weak. What about their planetary defenses? Cretan asked. That's what worries me, Thekmor replied. We can detect thousands of artificial objects in orbit around their planet, but we can't determine what they're for. Some of them appear to be weapons platforms, others look like communication relays. But they're all connected through some kind of quantum network that we don't understand. The truth was that most of the objects the aliens were detecting were just space junk, old satellites, discarded rocket stages, and debris from decades of space exploration. But the aliens interpreted everything as potential weapons. Sir, we're receiving another message from the Human Command Network, reported the alien communications officer. What does it say? Cretan asked. They're asking us to establish diplomatic relations and work together for the benefit of all species, the officer replied. Our translators interpret this as a demand that we surrender our technology and join their galactic empire. Cretan felt his anger growing. The humans were so confident in their superior technology that they were demanding the Valterix Empire surrender before the battle even began. Meanwhile, on a research station orbiting Mars, Dr. Elena Vasquez was making a disturbing discovery. She had been monitoring the alien communications for days, and she was beginning to understand how the aliens thought. Maya, I think I know why they're here, Elena said over the communication link to the Arecibo 2 station. What do you mean? Maya asked. I've been listening to their military briefings, Elena explained. They're not here to conquer Earth. They're here because they think we're going to attack them. That's insane, Maya replied. We can barely get a rocket to Mars, let alone attack an alien empire. But they don't know that, Elena said. According to their communications, they think we're a spacefaring civilization that has been hiding our true capabilities. They believe we deliberately infiltrated their probe as a prelude to invasion. The misunderstanding was getting worse by the hour. Every action taken by either side was interpreted by the other as a sign of aggressive intent. The humans saw the massive alien fleet as proof that the aliens wanted to destroy Earth. The aliens saw the human defensive preparations as evidence that humanity was preparing for galactic conquest. Commander Park was trying to keep her crew calm as they watched the alien fleet take position in the outer solar system. Her ship was not built for combat, and she knew that any one of the alien vessels could destroy her entire fleet without much effort. Commander, we're receiving a transmission from Earth Command, Lieutenant Williams reported. Put it through. Park ordered. General Walsh's voice came through the speakers, sounding tired but determined. All units, this is Earth Command. We are attempting to establish peaceful communication with the alien fleet. Do not fire unless fired upon. Repeat, do not fire unless fired upon. You heard the General? Park announced to her crew. We wait and see what happens. But waiting was becoming more difficult by the minute. The alien fleet was sending out small scout ships that were moving through the solar system, scanning everything they encountered. When one of these scouts approached the asteroid belt, it triggered a massive explosion. The explosion came from an old mining probe that had been left in the asteroid belt years ago. The probe had been designed to break apart asteroids for mining operations, but it had been abandoned when the mining company ran out of money. When the alien scout ship got too close, the probe's automatic systems activated and destroyed both the probe and the alien ship. Did we just shoot down one of their ships? Lieutenant Williams asked in shock. It was an accident, Park replied, but she knew the aliens wouldn't see it that way. On the alien flagship, the destruction of the scout ship was seen as an act of war. The explosion had been massive, far more powerful than anything the Valterics Empire had expected from a species that was supposed to be primitive. Sir, the humans have destroyed one of our scout ships, Thekmore reported. The explosion was consistent with a quantum torpedo or antimatter weapon. They're testing our defenses, Cretan said grimly. They want to see how we react to their attacks. What are your orders, sir? Thekmore asked. Begin powering our weapon systems, Cretan ordered. If the humans want to fight, we'll give them a fight they won't forget. The alien fleet began to glow with energy as their weapon systems came online. Massive cannons emerged from hidden compartments, and energy shields began to form around each ship. The aliens were preparing for battle. On Earth, monitoring stations around the world detected the energy buildup from the alien fleet. The readings were far beyond anything human technology could produce, and it was clear that the aliens were preparing to attack. All units, this is Earth Command, General Walsh announced. The alien fleet is powering weapons. All defensive systems are now active. Prepare for battle. Colonel Harrison's improvised weapons platforms began to activate around Earth. Old satellites were armed with explosives. Space stations were converted into weapons platforms, and every available rocket was prepared for launch. The energy signatures from these preparations were massive. As every power plant on Earth was pushed to maximum capacity, Dr. Rebecca Stone was still trying to establish communication with the aliens, but the language barrier was proving impossible to overcome. Every message she sent was misinterpreted, and every response from the aliens sounded like a military threat. Ambassador Kim, I don't think we can solve this through communication, Rebecca said. Their language and ours are too different. They literally cannot understand the concept of peaceful coexistence. Then what do we do? Kim asked. I don't know, Rebecca replied, but I think we need to prepare for the worst. Commander Park watched as both fleets prepared for battle. The human ships were pathetically small compared to the alien fleet, but they were positioned with determination and courage. Her crew was scared, but they were ready to fight for their world. Commander, we're receiving a general broadcast from the alien fleet, Lieutenant Williams reported. What does it say? Park asked. Our computers can't translate it completely, but it seems to be some kind of ultimatum, Williams replied. They're giving us 1 hour to surrender. Park looked at her crew and saw the same determination in their eyes that she felt in her heart. They were not going to surrender without a fight. Send the message back, Park ordered. Tell them that humanity will never surrender. But when the message was translated by the alien computers, it came out as humanity chooses total war. The aliens interpreted this as a declaration of genocide, a promise to destroy the entire Valterics Empire. Both fleets were now ready for battle. The humans were preparing to fight against impossible odds, while the aliens were preparing to destroy what they believed was the greatest threat their civilization had ever faced. The stage was set for a war that neither side understood, and both sides were convinced that their survival depended on destroying the other. In 1 hour, the battle for Earth would begin. Admiral Patricia Chun stood in the command center of the unified Earth fleet, looking at displays that showed the positions of every human ship in the solar system. She had been a naval officer for 30 years, but she had never faced anything like this. The alien fleet was so large that her computers had trouble tracking all of the enemy ships at once. "Admiral, we have 57 ships ready for combat," reported Captain Davis Her. "Tactical officer?" "Most of them are converted civilian vessels with improvised weapons. The rest are military satellites and space stations." "And how many ships do the aliens have?" Chen asked, though she already knew the answer. 847. "Confirmed vessels," Davis replied. "Each one is larger and more advanced than our best military ships." Chun nodded grimly. The math was simple. Humanity was outnumbered more than 15 to 1, and the aliens had technology that was centuries ahead of anything humans had ever built. But she had noticed something strange about the alien formation. "Captain, look." "At their positioning," Chun said, pointing at the tactical display. "They're maintaining defensive formations as if they're expecting us to attack them." "That doesn't make sense," Davis replied. "They have overwhelming superiority." "Why would they be defensive?" "I don't know," Chun admitted. "But it gives us an advantage. If they're expecting an attack, they might not be prepared for a different kind of approach." On the research station orbiting Mars, Dr. Michael Foster was making the discovery of his lifetime. He had been studying the alien communications for days, and he was beginning to understand something important about the Valterix Empire. "Elena, I think I know why they're so afraid of us," Michael said to Dr. Vasquez over the communication link. "What do you mean?" Elena asked. "I've been analyzing their historical records," Michael explained. "The Valterix Empire has conquered 17 different worlds, but every single one of those civilizations was primitive. Stone Age, Bronze Age, Early Iron Age at most. They've never fought a war against a technologically advanced species." "So they don't know how to fight equals?" Elena said, understanding immediately. "Exactly," Michael replied. "Their entire military doctrine is based on overwhelming primitive civilizations with superior technology. They have no experience fighting enemies who might actually fight back." This was a crucial insight. The Valterix Empire was powerful, but they had never faced real resistance. All of their previous conquests had been against civilizations that couldn't even comprehend the technology being used against them. On the alien flagship, Fleet Admiral Cretan was having doubts about the upcoming battle. The human defensive. Preparations seemed insufficient for a species that had supposedly mastered quantum technology and interstellar communication. "Vecmar, are we certain about the human threat level?" Cretan asked his second in command. "Sir, the evidence is overwhelming," Vecmar replied. "They penetrated our most secure networks. They're coordinating planetary defenses through quantum communication, and they have energy sources that our scientists can't explain." "But look at their fleet," Cretan said, pointing at the tactical display. "They have fewer than 60 ships, and most of them appear to be civilian vessels. Either they're hiding their true capabilities, or we've made a terrible mistake." Vecmar looked at the display and frowned. "Sir, our doctrine states that advanced civilizations often conceal their military capabilities until the moment of attack. The weakness of their fleet could be a deception." On Earth, Colonel Sarah Martinez was in charge of the orbital defense stations that surrounded the planet. She had been working for 3 days straight, converting peaceful research stations into weapons platforms. The work was exhausting, but she knew that humanity's survival depended on it. "Colonel, we're ready to begin the final phase of preparation," reported Lieutenant Jackson, her engineering officer. "What's the final phase?" Martinez asked. "We're going to power down all non-essential systems and coordinate a massive energy pulse through the entire network," Jackson explained. "It should create an electromagnetic field that might disrupt their sensors. Will it work?" Martinez asked. "Honestly, I don't know," Jackson admitted, "but it's the only trick we have left." Martinez looked at her displays and saw the alien fleet in the distance, glowing with energy as their weapons systems prepared for battle. She knew that her improvised defenses would barely slow them down, but she was determined to try. "Begin the power-down sequence," Martinez ordered. All across Earth's orbital network, space stations and satellites began shutting down their systems. The power that had been running life support, communications, and research equipment was redirected. Into a single, massive pulse generator, the aliens detected the power changes immediately. On their flagship, the science officer was watching energy readings that didn't make sense. "Sir, the humans are powering down their orbital network," the science officer reported. "Energy output is dropping across the entire system." "They're preparing for something," Cretan said. "This could be the activation sequence for their doomsday weapon." The truth was much simpler. The humans were just trying to create an electromagnetic pulse that might give them a few seconds of advantage. But the aliens interpreted the power changes as preparation for a weapon that could destroy entire star systems. Ambassador David Kim was making one final attempt to communicate with the alien fleet. He had been working with Dr. Rebecca Stone to create a message that might break through the language barrier. "Rebecca, what if we try to communicate through mathematics?" Kim suggested. "Mathematical concepts should be universal." "That's brilliant," Rebecca replied. "We could send them mathematical proofs that demonstrate our peaceful intentions." They quickly put together a message that used mathematical equations to spell out concepts like cooperation, mutual benefit, and peaceful coexistence. The message was transmitted to the alien fleet using every available communication channel, but when the message reached the alien ships, their computers interpreted the mathematical formulas as targeting data for weapon systems. The aliens thought the humans were sending them the coordinates for a massive attack. "Sir, we're receiving targeting data from the human fleet," reported the alien communications officer. "They're sending us the locations of every major population center in our empire. They're threatening to destroy our home worlds," Cretan said, his voice filled with rage. "This is no longer about conquest. This is about the survival of our species." Dr. Elena Vasquez was monitoring the alien communications when she heard something that made her blood run cold. The aliens were discussing the possibility of total sterilization, destroying every living thing on Earth to prevent humanity from spreading to other worlds. "Maya, we need to contact Earth Command immediately," Elena said urgently. "The aliens aren't just planning to conquer us. They're planning to commit genocide." "What do you mean?" Maya asked. "I've been listening to their military briefings," Elena explained. "They think we're a species that could eventually threaten their entire civilization. They're talking about using weapons that would destroy all life on Earth." The news reached Earth Command within minutes. General Walsh felt sick as she read the report. The aliens weren't just preparing for war, they were preparing to commit the complete destruction of humanity. "All units, this is Earth Command," General Walsh announced. "We have confirmed that the alien fleet is preparing for total annihilation of our species. All defensive measures are now authorized." On the alien flagship, War Commander Thekmor was preparing for the final assault. The human fleet was small and weak, but Thekmor knew that appearances could be deceiving. The humans had already demonstrated capabilities that shouldn't be possible for a primitive species. "Sir, all weapon systems are fully charged," Thekmor reported. "We're ready to begin the attack." "Wait," Cretan said, studying the tactical display. "Something's wrong. The humans are powering down their systems right before battle. Either they're surrendering or they're preparing to activate something we can't detect." "What are your orders?" Thekmor asked. "Maintain position," Cretan ordered. "Let them make the first move. I want to see what they're planning." Colonel Martinez was ready to activate the electromagnetic pulse. Every power station on Earth was connected to the orbital network, and the energy buildup was massive. The pulse would only last for a few seconds, but it would be the most powerful electromagnetic wave ever created by humanity. "Colonel, we're ready to activate the pulse," Lieutenant Jackson reported. "All stations, prepare for electromagnetic pulse activation," Martinez announced. "This is our last chance to give our fleet an advantage." The pulse activated with a flash of light that could be seen from space. Every electronic device on Earth flickered for a moment as the planet's entire electrical grid contributed to the massive electromagnetic wave that spread out from Earth's orbital network. The aliens detected the pulse immediately, their sensors went crazy as the electromagnetic wave hit their ships, causing temporary disruptions in their systems. But the aliens interpreted the pulse as something much more dangerous. "Sir, the humans have activated some kind of quantum weapon," the alien science officer reported. "The energy readings are off our charts. I've never seen anything like it. They're attacking," Cretan said grimly. "All ships, prepare for immediate counterattack." The alien fleet began to glow with energy as their weapon systems reached full power. Massive cannons emerged from hidden compartments, and energy shields began to form around each ship. The aliens were preparing to destroy everything in the solar system. Commander Park watched from her ship as the alien fleet prepared for battle. The electromagnetic pulse had worked. The alien sensors were disrupted for a few seconds. But she knew it wouldn't be enough. "All human ships, this is Commander Park," she announced. "We've done everything we can. Now we fight for our world, our families, and our future. Good luck to all of you." The human fleet was tiny compared to the alien armada, but every ship was crewed by people who were willing to die for their planet. They had improvised weapons, converted civilian ships, and desperate courage. The alien fleet was massive and powerful, equipped with weapons that could destroy entire cities. But they were fighting an enemy they didn't understand, using tactics designed for conquering primitive civilizations. Both fleets were now in position for battle. The humans were preparing to fight against impossible odds, while the aliens were preparing to destroy what they believed was the greatest threat their civilization had ever faced. The battle for Earth was about to begin, and neither side truly understood what they were fighting for. In the next few minutes, the fate of two civilizations would be decided by a war that neither side really wanted to fight, but as both fleets prepared for the final confrontation, something else was stirring. In the outer reaches of the solar system, ancient sensors, dormant for millions of years, had detected the massive energy buildup from both fleets. Something that had been sleeping in the cold darkness of space was beginning to wake up. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. Dr. Elena Vasquez was sitting in front of her computer, tears streaming down her face. She had spent the last hour listening to the alien communications, and what she heard broke her heart. Fleet Admiral Cretan was just as terrified as the humans were. "Maya, I need to try something," Elena said, her voice shaking. "I'm going to use the quantum connection to access the alien commander's personal files. Maybe I can find something that will help us understand each other." "Elena, that's incredibly dangerous," Maya replied. "If they detect what you're doing, they might attack immediately." "They're going to attack anyway," Elena said. "This is our last chance to prevent a war that will destroy both of our civilizations." Elena began typing commands into her computer, using the quantum link to penetrate deeper into the alien network than anyone had gone before. She was looking for personal files, private communications, anything that might reveal the truth about the Veltarics Empire. What she found changed everything. Fleet Admiral Cretan's personal logs told a story of fear and desperation. The Veltarics Empire was not the conquering force they appeared to be. They were a dying civilization, running from something that had destroyed their homeworlds centuries ago. "Maya, listen to this," Elena said, reading from the alien files. "Cretan's personal log, entry 4127. We have been fleeing for 300 years, searching for a new home. Every world we have conquered has been a temporary refuge. We take what we need and move on, always looking over our shoulders for the machines that destroyed our ancestors." "Machines?" Maya asked. "There's more," Elena continued. "The Veltarics Empire conquered primitive worlds not because they were evil, but because they were desperate. They needed resources, technology, and safe places to hide. They've been living in constant fear of something they call the Silent Hunters. The truth was that the Veltarics Empire had never encountered a species like humanity. All of their previous conquests had been easy victories against civilizations that couldn't fight back. But humans were different. They had technology, organization, and the ability to resist. Admiral Chun was preparing her fleet for the final battle when she received Elena's message. The information about the Valtarix Empire's true situation changed everything she thought she knew about the enemy. Captain Davis, I need you to stand down all weapon systems, Chun ordered. Admiral, are you sure? Davis asked. They're about to attack us. Trust me, Chun replied. I'm going to try something that might save both of our species. Chun activated the communication system and began broadcasting on all frequencies. But instead of sending a message to the alien fleet, she began broadcasting Earth's history, real recordings of human wars, struggles, and achievements. This is Admiral Chun of the Earth Defense Fleet, she announced. We are not the advanced civilization you think we are. We are a young species that has barely learned to travel between planets. We have never conquered another world, and we have never threatened any civilization beyond our own solar system. The message was accompanied by video footage of human history, the first moon landing, the construction of the International Space Station, the struggles of early space exploration. Shin was showing the aliens that humans were not the Galactic conquerors they feared. On the alien flagship, Dr. Foster's breakthrough in communication protocols was finally working. The real-time translation system he had developed was allowing both sides to hear each other's actual words for the first time. Sir, we're receiving a new transmission from the human fleet, the alien communications officer reported. But this time, the translation is completely different. Fleet Admiral Cretan listened to Admiral Chun's message with growing amazement. The humans were not threatening conquest or demanding surrender. They were asking for understanding and explaining their true situation. Thekmor, are you hearing this? Cretan asked. Yes, sir, Thekmor replied. If the translation is accurate, the humans are telling us they're not an advanced civilization. They're saying they've never left their own solar system. But that's impossible, Cretan said. Our probe detected quantum signatures and energy readings that should only be possible for a highly advanced species. War Commander, Thekmor was studying the new data with confusion. The human energy signatures were massive, but they seemed to be coming from desperate improvisation rather than advanced technology. Sir, I think I understand now, Thekmor said. The humans achieved their quantum energy readings through accident and desperation, not through advanced science. They're not hiding their true capabilities. They're using everything they have just to survive. The realization hit Cretan like a physical blow. The Valtarix Empire had mobilized their entire fleet to fight a species that had never even achieved faster-than-light travel. They had interpreted humanity's desperate preparations as signs of advanced military technology. We've made a terrible mistake, Cretan said quietly, but before either fleet could stand down, something else entered the solar system. Ancient sensors that had been dormant for millions of years began to activate. The massive energy buildup from both fleets had awakened something that had been sleeping in the cold darkness of space. Sir, we're detecting a massive energy signature approaching from the outer system, reported the alien sensor officer. It's not human, and it's not one of ours. Admiral Chun saw the same readings on her displays. Something huge was moving through the solar system, and it was heading directly toward both fleets. What is that thing? Captain Davis asked. I don't know, Chun replied. But it's bigger than anything we've ever seen. The object that was approaching was ancient beyond imagination. It was a machine intelligence that had been left behind by a civilization that had died out millions of years ago. Its programming was simple: detect large military fleets and eliminate them before they could threaten inhabited worlds. Dr. Elena Vasquez was monitoring the alien communications when she heard Fleet Admiral Cretan's voice for the first time, without the translation errors. Human vessels, this is Fleet Admiral Cretan of the Valtarix Empire, Cretan announced. We have made a grave error. We believed you were a threat to our civilization, but we now understand that you are not our enemy. Admiral Chun, this is Elena Vasquez, Elena said over the communication link. The aliens are trying to communicate. They're saying they made a mistake. I hear them, Chun replied. But we have a bigger problem now. That ancient machine is about to attack both of our fleets. The ancient machine was massive, larger than any ship in either fleet. It had been drifting through space for millions of years, waiting for someone to trigger its activation protocols. The energy signatures from the human and alien fleets had awakened it, and it was now preparing to fulfill its original programming. "All vessels, this is Admiral Chun," she announced on all frequencies. "We are facing a threat that is greater than our differences. If we don't work together, that machine will destroy both of our civilizations." Fleet Admiral Cretan understood the situation immediately. The ancient machine was exactly the kind of threat that the Veltarix Empire had been fleeing from for centuries. It was a silent hunter, an automated weapon system left behind by a dead civilization. "Admiral Chun, this is Fleet Admiral Cretan," he responded. "We will assist you in fighting this threat. Our civilizations may survive if we work together." The ancient machine began to power up its weapon systems. Energy readings showed that it had the capability to destroy entire planets. Both the human and alien fleets were insignificant compared to the power of the ancient weapon. "All ships form a combined battle line," Admiral Chun ordered. "Human and alien vessels will fight together." It was an unprecedented moment in galactic history. Two civilizations that had been on the brink of war were now fighting side by side against a common enemy, Commander. Park moved her ship into position next to a Veltarix cruiser. The alien ship was beautiful and deadly, but now it was fighting to protect humanity rather than destroy it. "Human vessel, this is Captain Velmer of the Veltarix ship Ketharun," came a voice over the communication system. "We will coordinate our attacks." "Understood, Captain," Park replied. "Let's save both of our species." The battle against the ancient machine was unlike anything either civilization had ever experienced. The machine's weapons could destroy entire ships with a single blast, but the combined human and alien fleets were able to coordinate their attacks in ways that confused the ancient AI. Dr. Michael Foster discovered that the machine's programming was designed to fight against single, unified fleets. It had trouble adapting to the chaotic, improvised tactics that the human and alien ships were using together. "The machine is having trouble targeting us when we work together," Foster announced. "Our different technologies are confusing its sensors." The battle lasted for hours. Both human and alien ships were destroyed, but the combined fleet was slowly wearing down the ancient machine's defenses. The key was cooperation. Human creativity and alien technology working together to defeat an enemy that neither could face alone. Finally, Admiral Chun and Fleet Admiral Cretan coordinated a final attack. Human ships loaded with explosives attacked the machine's shield generators, while alien ships used their advanced weapons to target its power core. The ancient machine was destroyed in a massive explosion that lit up the entire solar system. Both fleets had suffered heavy losses, but they had won the battle through cooperation and understanding. "Fleet Admiral Cretan, this is Admiral Chun," she announced. "Thank you for fighting beside us." "Admiral Chun, it was an honor," Cretan replied. "Your species has shown courage and ingenuity that we have never encountered before. We would be honored to call humanity our allies." The crisis was over, but the implications were just beginning. Two civilizations that had almost destroyed each other had instead become partners in survival. The accidental contact had led to mutual understanding and cooperation. Ambassador David Kim was appointed as Earth's first interstellar ambassador. His job was to work with the Veltarix Empire to prevent similar misunderstandings as humanity took its first steps into the galactic community. "The universe is a dangerous place," Kim said in his first official statement. "But we have learned that cooperation and understanding can overcome even the greatest threats. Humanity and the Veltarix Empire will face the future together." Lieutenant Commander Maya Rodriguez, who had detected the original alien signal, was promoted to captain and given command of the new joint human-alien research station. Her job was to study the galaxy and help both civilizations learn from each other. "We almost destroyed each other because we didn't understand each other," Maya said. "Now we have the chance to build something better, a future where different species can work together to face the challenges of the universe." The story of the accidental contact became legend in both civilizations. It was a reminder that sometimes the greatest enemies can become the strongest allies when they finally understand each other. The universe was vast and dangerous, but it was also full of possibilities for those brave enough to reach out to others. Humanity had taken its first steps into the galactic community, and the journey was just beginning. Captain Blake Morrison rubbed his tired eyes as he stared at the endless stream of data flowing across his screens at Deep Space Monitoring Station Olympus. The massive station orbited Neptune in complete silence, its sensors reaching deep into the void between stars. For 3 years, Morrison had commanded this outpost, watching for any sign of alien activity in the galaxy beyond their solar system. Most days brought nothing but cosmic background radiation and the occasional meteor shower. Senior Communications Officer Maria Valdez suddenly straightened in her chair, her headset crackling with an unusual signal. She adjusted the frequency controls with quick, practiced movements, her face growing pale as the transmission became clearer. The signal was definitely artificial, definitely intelligent, and definitely not human. Morrison moved to her station as Valdez worked to decode the alien message. The transmission came from the direction of Vega, 47 light-years away. The signal was encrypted, but their computers were slowly breaking through the mathematical patterns. When the first words came through in broken English, Morrison felt his heart skip a beat. The voice belonged to Ambassador Thane Veltar of the Calthani Republic. His people were dying, he explained through the static-filled transmission. A species called the Ravager Collective was destroying everything in their path, consuming entire worlds and leaving nothing behind but empty space. The Calthani had tried to fight back, but their defensive fleet was completely destroyed in a battle they called the Massacre of Outer Kelthos. Valtar's voice shook as he described how the Ravagers did not simply kill their victims. They consumed them, absorbing their life force and converting their technology for their own dark purposes. 3 Calthani colonies had already fallen, their billions of inhabitants transformed into something terrible that served the Ravager hive mind. Now the enemy was approaching Kelthos Prime, the Calthani homeworld where over 12 billion souls waited for death. The ambassador explained that his people had heard rumors about humanity from neutral traders who traveled between the stars. They spoke of humans as fierce warriors who never surrendered, who fought with creativity and determination that confused their enemies. The Calthani were offering everything they had in exchange for military assistance. Their entire technological database, including revolutionary quantum computing systems that could advance any civilization by centuries, would belong to humanity if they helped. Morrison immediately transmitted the message to Earth, marking it with the highest priority codes. On Earth, Admiral Rebecca Torres received the transmission in her command center beneath the Swiss Alps. Torres was a veteran of the Titan Wars, where human colonies in the outer solar system had fought for independence before joining the United Earth government. She understood the weight of the decision before her. The Admiral gathered her senior staff to analyze the transmission. Intelligence Chief Robert Kane presented a disturbing possibility that the Ravagers might not stop with the Calthani. If these creatures truly consumed entire civilizations, they would eventually reach human space. Earth's defensive fleet was powerful but had never faced an enemy from beyond the solar system. Dr. Elizabeth Chun, Earth's leading xenobiologist, studied the little information available about the Ravagers. What she found was terrifying. These beings appeared to be a parasitic species that grew stronger with each civilization they destroyed. They had been moving across the galaxy for thousands of years, leaving behind a trail of dead worlds and empty space. Torres faced an impossible choice. Earth had never engaged in interstellar warfare, and sending their fleet so far from home would leave humanity vulnerable. But the Calthani's quantum technology could revolutionize human civilization, and the threat of the Ravagers eventually reaching Earth was very real. The Admiral called an emergency session of the World Council. Representatives from every nation on Earth gathered in Geneva to debate humanity's response. Some argued that Earth should focus on its own defenses and let the aliens solve their own problems. Others insisted that humanity had a moral duty to help any species facing extinction. General Marcus Webb, commander of Earth's Marine Forces, supported military intervention. He argued that fighting the Ravagers in Calthani space was better than waiting for them to reach Earth. The enemy would be weakened by their battles with the Calthani, and humanity would learn valuable information about their tactics and technology. As the debate continued, more transmissions arrived from the Calthos system. Veltar sent detailed tactical reports about Ravager capabilities, including their terrifying ability to convert captured ships and personnel into weapons against their former allies. The ambassador also transmitted the access codes to several Calthani research databases as proof of his people's sincerity. The breakthrough came when Dr. Chun finished analyzing the Calthani quantum computing data. The technology was genuine and far beyond anything humanity possessed. With these systems, Earth could develop faster-than-light travel, advanced artificial intelligence, and energy weapons that would make them one of the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. Torres made her recommendation to the World Council with complete conviction. Humanity would send a military expedition to aid the Calthani, not just for the technology they offered, but because it was the right thing to do. If the Ravagers were truly as dangerous as they appeared, someone needed to make a stand against them before they became too powerful to stop. The vote was close but decisive. Earth would mobilize its first expeditionary fleet and send it to the Calthos system. Torres immediately activated Protocol 7, the emergency mobilization plan that would assemble the largest human fleet ever created. Orders flashed across the solar system as Earth's military machine roared to life. Shipyards on Mars began loading supplies and ammunition onto massive cargo vessels. Training centers prepared Marines for combat in alien environments. Scientists worked around the clock to adapt human weapons for use against unknown enemy technology. The news of humanity's decision spread quickly through underground channels to the Calthos system. On the dying world of Calthos Prime, Ambassador Veltar received confirmation that the humans were coming. For the first time in months, hope flickered in the hearts of the Calthani people, but the Ravagers were also listening to human communications. Deep in their hive ships, alien minds processed this new information with cold calculation. They had consumed hundreds of civilizations over the millennia, and each new species brought fresh challenges and opportunities. The humans sounded different from their previous victims, more aggressive and unpredictable. This would make the harvest more interesting. In the depths of space, Ravager scout ships changed course toward the solar system. If the humans wanted to interfere with their expansion, they would learn what happened to species that stood in the way of the collective. The hive mind began planning strategies to deal with this new threat while continuing their assault on the Calthani homeworld. As Protocol 7 reached full activation, Torres stood on the observation deck of Earth's orbital command station, watching the lights of countless ships preparing for humanity's first interstellar war. She knew that this decision would change everything for the human race. They were no longer isolated in their small corner of the galaxy. Win or lose, humanity was about to take its place among the stars, and the universe would never be the same. Fleet Admiral Jack Kane stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, watching the massive shipyard of Mars through the reinforced windows. Known throughout the fleet as Reaper for his deadly precision in the Titan Wars, Kane was the obvious choice to command humanity's first interstellar military expedition. His weathered face showed no emotion as hundreds of ships moved through the construction bays like a carefully choreographed dance. The Defiant was humanity's newest and most powerful warship, a dreadnought-class vessel that stretched over 2 kilometers from bow to stern. Her experimental plasma cannons could punch through asteroid-sized targets, while her quantum phase shields represented the cutting edge of human defensive technology. Kane had personally overseen her construction and knew every bolt and circuit in her hull. Commander Lisa Park joined Kane at the observation window, her tactical computer displaying fleet formations and attack patterns. Park had earned her reputation during the asteroid belt conflicts, where her innovative strategies had defeated rebel forces that outnumbered Earth's fleet 3-1. Her ability to think several moves ahead made her invaluable for planning operations against an unknown enemy. Chief Engineer Viktor Petrov emerged from the ship's lower decks, his uniform stained with grease and coolant. The massive Russian had designed the Defiance Revolutionary Fusion Core, which generated more power than some small space stations. His modifications to standard human technology had given the fleet capabilities that surprised even their own engineers. Marine Colonel Rex Murphy strode onto the bridge with the confident swagger that had earned him the nickname Bulldog. His first orbital drop battalion was the most elite unit in Earth's military, trained for combat in zero-gravity, hostile atmospheres, and extreme environments. Murphy's Marines could fight anywhere in the galaxy, and they were eager to test themselves. Against alien enemies, the expeditionary fleet consisted of 200 vessels, representing the best of human military engineering. 12 dreadnoughts served as the backbone of the force, their heavy armor and massive weapons designed to break enemy formations. 48 cruisers provided speed and flexibility, while 80 destroyers would screen the larger ships and hunt enemy raiders. 60 support vessels carried supplies, medical facilities, and repair equipment for the long journey to Kelthos. Prime. Each ship carried experimental technology that had never been tested in real combat. Gravitational torpedoes could create artificial gravity wells that trapped enemy vessels. Electromagnetic pulse mines disabled enemy electronics while leaving their hulls intact for boarding operations. Most importantly, every ship had adaptive artificial intelligence systems that learned from each engagement and shared tactical data across the entire fleet. As the final preparations continued, Security Chief Diana Cross discovered disturbing evidence in the Mars shipyard computer systems. Someone had been accessing classified fleet data and attempting to plant malicious code in the ship navigation systems. The attempts were sophisticated and showed knowledge of human technology that no alien civilization should possess. Cross launched a full investigation with her security teams, spread across the massive industrial complex. The sabotage attempts followed a pattern that suggested multiple infiltrators working together with advanced planning and coordination. Whoever was responsible had been watching human military preparations for weeks or possibly months. The breakthrough came when Cross caught one of the infiltrators attempting to plant an explosive device in the Defiance main reactor core. The suspect appeared to be a human technician named David Walsh, but when Cross cornered him in the reactor chamber, his appearance began to shift and change like liquid metal. The creature that had been pretending to be Walsh revealed its true form as a Ravager infiltrator. Its body was a nightmare combination of organic tissue and mechanical components, with multiple arms ending in sharp cutting tools. The alien's voice was a mixture of different sounds that somehow formed recognizable words as it spoke about the futility of human resistance. Cross barely escaped the reactor chamber as the shapeshifter pursued her through the station's maintenance tunnels. The creature moved with impossible speed and agility, crawling along walls and ceilings like a mechanical spider. Emergency alarms echoed through the shipyard as security teams converged on the area. The chase led through the industrial sections of the Mars complex, past massive foundries and assembly lines where human workers scrambled for safety. Cross used her knowledge of the station layout to stay ahead of the infiltrator, while calling for backup from Kane's Marines. When the creature finally cornered Cross in a storage bay filled with weapon components, it revealed the true scope of the Ravager plan. The aliens had been watching humanity for decades, studying their technology and military capabilities through hidden surveillance networks. The attack on the Kelthani was partially designed to draw Earth's fleet away from the solar system, leaving humanity vulnerable to a coordinated assault. Murphy and his Marines arrived just as the infiltrator prepared to kill Cross. The battle was brief but violent as the Ravager fought with desperate fury against opponents who refused to retreat. The creature's mechanical components sparked and smoked as Marine pulse rifles found their targets, finally bringing down the alien spy before it died. The infiltrator transmitted a final message to its masters somewhere in deep space. The transmission was encrypted and lasted only seconds, but it was enough to alert the Ravager Collective that their spy network had been discovered. Earth's element of surprise was gone. And the enemy now knew exactly what they were facing. Kane received Cross's report while standing in the Defiance command center, surrounded by tactical displays showing the positions of his assembled fleet. The discovery of Ravager infiltrators changed everything about their mission planning. If the aliens had been watching Earth for decades, they knew human capabilities and might have prepared countermeasures. The Admiral faced an impossible decision that would determine the fate of both humanity and the Calthani. Intelligence reports suggested that more Ravager agents might be hidden throughout human space, possibly preparing for an attack on Earth itself while the fleet was away. But abandoning the Calthani would mean losing valuable allies and allowing the Ravagers to grow even stronger. Kane's solution was characteristically bold and risky. He would split his force in half, keeping 100 ships to defend the solar system while leading the other 100 to the Kelthos system. This decision went against every rule of military strategy, which emphasized concentration of force. But Kane believed that humanity's unpredictability was their greatest weapon. Admiral Torres approved the plan despite protests from other fleet commanders who wanted to keep the force together. She trusted Kane's judgment and understood that defending Earth was just as important as helping the Calthani. The split would weaken both forces, but it might be the only way to protect human interests on multiple fronts. As the first 100 ships prepared for the journey to Kelthos Prime, long-range sensors detected movement in the outer solar system. Unidentified contacts were approaching from the direction of interstellar space, moving too fast and too purposefully to be natural phenomena. The Ravagers were already coming to Earth, just as Kane had feared. The race was on. Kane's expeditionary force had to reach the Calthani before the aliens finished harvesting their civilization, while Torres's defensive fleet prepared for the first alien invasion of the solar system. Both battles would determine whether humanity survived its first contact with hostile alien intelligence, or joined the countless civilizations that had fallen to the Ravager Collective's endless hunger. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kelthos system like a pack of hunting wolves emerging from the darkness. Kane stood on the Defiance Bridge, watching his tactical displays fill with sensor data from the alien star system. What they found there defied every nightmare that human imagination had ever conceived. A massive sphere surrounded Kelthos Prime, completely encasing the planet in a web of organic and mechanical components that pulsed with sickly green light. The structure was easily the size of Earth's moon, its surface covered with thousands of extraction ports that burrowed deep into the planet's crust. Streams of energy flowed from these ports into collection nodes that fed the power to massive processing centers scattered across the sphere's surface. Commander Park's tactical analysis revealed the true horror of what they were witnessing. The Ravagers had not simply conquered Kelthos Prime. They had turned the entire world into a biological processing plant. Billions of Calthani were still alive inside the sphere, kept in a state of perpetual suffering while their life force was slowly drained to feed the Ravager Collective's insatiable hunger. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the fleet's xenobiologist, studied the readings from her science station with growing alarm. The energy signatures coming from the harvesting sphere were unlike anything in Earth's databases. The Ravagers were not just extracting physical resources from the planet. They were harvesting something far more valuable and terrifying. The aliens were consuming consciousness itself, absorbing the memories, knowledge, and personalities of their victims into a vast hive mind that grew more intelligent with each civilization it devoured. Every species the Ravagers had encountered over millions of years had added to their collective knowledge, making them nearly impossible to defeat. Through conventional means, a weak transmission from the planet's surface broke through the interference generated by the harvesting sphere. General Crix Morvain, the last surviving commander of the Calthani military, was holed up in a deep underground bunker with 50,000 civilian refugees. His voice cracked with exhaustion and despair as he described the ongoing harvest process. The Ravagers had not killed the Calthani population quickly. Instead, they had built massive conversion centers where captured civilians were slowly transformed into biomechanical drones. The process kept the victims conscious throughout the horrific transformation, their screams of agony feeding the Ravager's hunger for suffering and terror. Morvain explained that the harvesting process had been going on for 3 months, with millions of Calthani processed every day. The underground bunker complex was the last free territory on the planet, but Ravager tunneling machines were closing in from all directions. They had maybe hours before the final assault began. Kane listened to the desperate transmission while studying tactical displays that showed the true scope of the enemy force. Hundreds of Ravager ships patrolled the system, many of them converted Calthani vessels that still bore the markings of their original crews. The ships moved with perfect coordination, their formation patterns suggesting a level of tactical unity that human forces had never encountered. Park identified several key targets within the harvesting sphere, including power generation centers and control nodes that might be vulnerable to attack. But any assault on the sphere would be suicidal given the overwhelming enemy presence. The Ravager fleet outnumbered Kane's force by at least 5-1, and that did not include the defensive systems built into the sphere itself. As Kane debated his options, the decision was made for him. Ravager sensors detected the human fleet and immediately began deploying for battle. The enemy ships moved with mechanical precision, forming attack formations that utilized converted technology from dozens of different species. The most horrifying sight was the appearance of the converted Calthani vessels. These ships retained their original designs but had been corrupted with Ravager biomechanical components. Worse yet, long-range scans detected life signs aboard the vessels, suggesting that the original Calthani crews were still alive and conscious inside their transformed ships. The first exchange of fire began when a group of Ravager scouts moved to intercept the human fleet. Kane's destroyers engaged the enemy ships with electromagnetic pulse weapons, hoping to disable them without causing too much damage. The human weapons proved effective against Ravager technology, but the aliens adapted quickly to each new tactic. What made the battle truly terrifying was the sound that came through the communication channels. The converted Calthani ships were broadcasting on all frequencies, their original crews screaming for help while being forced to fight against their potential rescuers. The Ravagers were using the Calthani consciousness as psychological warfare, trying to break human morale before the real fighting began. Chief Petrov worked frantically in the Defiance engineering section, analyzing captured Ravager technology and looking for weaknesses. The enemy ships used a combination of biological and mechanical systems that made them incredibly adaptable but potentially vulnerable to specific types of attack. The breakthrough came when Petrov realized that the Ravager hive mind was both their greatest strength and their most critical weakness. The aliens coordinated perfectly because they shared a collective consciousness. But this also meant that disrupting their mental link could cause massive confusion in their ranks. Colonel Murphy prepared his Marines for a potential boarding operation while watching the space battle unfold on his tactical screens. The human fleet was holding its own against the Ravager scouts, but the main enemy force was still moving to engage. Murphy could see that Kane was planning something desperate, something that would require Marines to fight in the most dangerous environment imaginable. The first major engagement erupted when 20 Ravager cruisers attempted to surround a squadron of human destroyers. The battle revealed both the strengths and weaknesses of human tactics against alien technology. Human weapons were effective but required careful coordination to penetrate Ravager defenses. The enemy's greatest advantage was their perfect coordination, while humanity's strength lay in individual initiative and tactical flexibility. Dr. Vasquez made a disturbing discovery while monitoring the battle communications. The Ravager hive mind was learning from each engagement, adapting to human tactics in real time, and sharing that knowledge across their entire fleet. What worked against one enemy ship would be useless against the next one they encountered. Kane realized that this battle was not just about saving the Calthani, it was about the survival of free will itself in the galaxy. The Ravager Collective represented the ultimate tyranny of perfect order and collective thought. where individual consciousness was consumed and absorbed into an ever-growing mass mind. As more Ravager ships moved to engage the human fleet, Kane made a decision that would echo through the rest of the war. He ordered his ships to deliberately use chaotic and unpredictable tactics, fighting in ways that violated every rule of military strategy. Human captains were given freedom to improvise and adapt, using their individual creativity as a weapon. Against the Ravagers' collective intelligence, the battle reached a critical point when the main Ravager fleet finally engaged Kane's forces. The sky around Kelthos Prime filled with weapons fire and exploding ships as two completely different philosophies of warfare clashed for the first time. The outcome would determine whether the galaxy's future belonged to individual freedom or collective absorption. Long-range sensors detected an even more disturbing development. The harvesting sphere was accelerating its operations, processing Calthani civilians at an unprecedented rate. Whatever the Ravagers were building inside that sphere, they wanted to finish it before the human fleet could interfere. Time was running out for both the Calthani and perhaps for all free life in the galaxy. The human fleet had won their first engagement against the Ravagers, but the victory came at a terrible cost. 8 destroyers and 2 cruisers were lost, their crews consumed by the alien hive mind in the final moments before their ships exploded. Kane watched the tactical displays showing the scattered debris of human vessels. While planning his next move, the battle had revealed something crucial about Ravager weaknesses. Their hive mind made them incredibly coordinated, but also predictable. They fought using the combined tactics of every species they had ever absorbed. But this meant they relied on proven strategies rather than innovation. Human unpredictability and individual initiative had proved superior to the aliens' collective intelligence. Commander Park analyzed the battle data while coordinating repairs across the fleet. The Ravager ships showed clear patterns in their attack formations and defensive maneuvers. They had absorbed the tactical knowledge of hundreds of civilizations, but this vast database of information also made them slower to adapt to completely new approaches. Colonel Murphy studied the surface scans of Kelthos Prime while preparing his Marines for the most dangerous mission of their careers. General Morvain's underground bunker complex was under direct assault by Ravager tunneling machines. The alien ground forces were using converted Calthani equipment and personnel, turning the planet's own defenses against the survivors. Murphy's plan called for an orbital drop directly into the heart of the battle zone. His Marines would have to fight through kilometers of Ravager-controlled territory to reach the bunker complex, facing an enemy that could adapt and learn from every engagement. The mission was essentially suicidal, but it was the only way to save the remaining Calthani civilians. The Marine assault began at dawn over Kelthos Prime. 50 drop pods streaked through the planet's atmosphere like falling stars, their heat shields glowing white-hot as they plunged toward the surface. Each pod carried a squad of humanity's elite warriors, armed with the most advanced weapons Earth could provide. Murphy's pod crashed through the roof of a Ravager processing center, his Marines immediately engaging the alien guards. The enemy forces were a nightmare combination of different species, all connected to the Ravager hive mind and fighting with perfect coordination. The aliens used weapons and tactics from dozens of civilizations, but their collective thinking made them vulnerable to human improvisation. The battle on the planet's surface was unlike anything in human military history. Ravager drones moved through the ruined cities with mechanical precision, their biomechanical bodies adapting to each new threat. They fought using strategies developed by the greatest military minds in galactic history, but they could not understand human tactics based on individual initiative and creative thinking. Murphy's Marines advanced through the alien-controlled territory using techniques that violated every rule of conventional warfare. They split into small groups that acted independently, making decisions based on local conditions rather than overall strategy. This chaotic approach confused the Ravager hive mind, which expected coordinated attacks from centralized command. In space, Chief Engineer Petrov made a breakthrough discovery while analyzing captured Ravager technology. The aliens were not just harvesting Kelthos Prime for biological resources. They were building something inside the massive sphere that surrounded the planet. Deep scans revealed a construction project of staggering complexity and terrifying purpose. The Ravagers were building a Stargate, a massive portal that could transport their entire fleet instantly to any location in the galaxy. The device required enormous amounts of energy, which explained why they were draining the life force from billions of Calthani civilians. Once completed, the Stargate would allow the Ravager Collective to appear anywhere without warning, making resistance impossible. Dr. Vasquez worked with rescued Calthani scientists to analyze the Stargate's construction and find potential weaknesses. The alien researchers had been studying Ravager technology for months before their civilization fell, and their knowledge proved invaluable for understanding the enemy's capabilities and limitations. The Calthani scientists revealed that their people had developed a secret weapon before their defeat. Called the Consciousness Disruptor, it was designed to sever the psychic links that held the Ravager hive mind together. The weapon could potentially free all the absorbed consciousnesses and break the collective's control over their converted forces. However, the Consciousness Disruptor required massive amounts of power to function, more energy than any conventional power source could provide. The weapon needed the entire output of a star to generate enough force to disrupt the Ravager hive mind across an entire star system on the planet's surface. Murphy's Marines finally reached the underground bunker complex where General Morvain and the surviving civilians waited. The Calthani commander was a battle-scarred veteran who had witnessed the fall of his entire civilization. His forces were exhausted and running low on ammunition, but they had never stopped fighting. Morvain showed the human Marines through the bunker complex, revealing the true scope of the Ravager harvest. Monitoring stations displayed images from across the planet showing millions of Calthani being processed in the alien conversion centers. The victims were kept conscious throughout the transformation, their screams of agony feeding the Ravagers' hunger for suffering. The general also revealed the location of the Consciousness Disruptor, hidden in a heavily defended research facility beneath the planet's capital city. The weapon was complete but had never been tested, and reaching it would require fighting through the most heavily defended area on the planet. Meanwhile, long-range sensors detected a new threat approaching: the Kelthos system. The main Ravager fleet was moving toward their position, millions of ships that represented the combined military might of hundreds of conquered civilizations. The enemy armada was so large that it blocked out entire sections of stars as it moved through space. Kane realized that his small fleet could never hope to defeat such overwhelming numbers through conventional means. The upcoming battle would require tactics so unusual and desperate that even human military commanders would consider them insane. Victory would depend on humanity's greatest strength, their refusal to accept defeat even when facing impossible odds. Dr. Vasquez made another disturbing discovery while studying the approaching Ravager fleet. The aliens had been systematically consuming the galaxy for millions of years, leaving behind only empty space and dead solar systems. Humanity and the Calthani were among the last free civilizations in their part of the galaxy. The Ravager Collective had grown so large that they needed to constantly expand to find new sources of consciousness to absorb. They were like a cancer that consumed everything in their path, growing stronger with each victory and more hungry with each conquest. Chief Petrov presented Kane with a desperate plan that could turn the Ravager's own weapon against them. If they could reverse the polarity of the Stargate while it was still under construction, the device might create a gravitational anomaly that would consume the Ravager fleet. The plan was extremely dangerous and would require precise timing, but it might be their only chance. As the main Ravager fleet approached Kelthos Prime, Kane made the decision that would determine the fate of all free life in the galaxy. He would split his remaining forces into 3 groups for a coordinated assault on the harvesting sphere. Success would save the Calthani and deal a devastating blow to the Ravager Collective, but failure would mean the end of human civilization. The final battle was about to begin, and Kane knew that humanity's survival depended on their ability to do what no other species had ever accomplished. They had to defeat an enemy that had absorbed the knowledge and experience of countless civilizations, using nothing but human determination and the refusal to surrender. The main Ravager fleet emerged from hyperspace like a plague of locusts descending upon Kelthos Prime. Millions of ships filled the space around the star system, their combined mass creating gravitational distortions that bent light and twisted space itself. Kane stood on the Defiance Bridge, watching sensors that showed an enemy force so vast that human mathematics could barely calculate their numbers. The approaching armada represented the accumulated military might of 1,000 conquered civilizations, each species adding their technology and tactics to the Ravager Collective's arsenal. Ships designed by peaceful traders flew alongside warships built by warrior cultures, all unified under the alien hive mind's absolute control. Kane's plan was the most desperate gambit in human military history. He would divide his remaining 92 ships into 3 groups, each with a specific mission that required perfect timing and flawless execution. Commander Park would lead 30 ships in a diversionary attack against the Ravager fleet, using hit-and-run tactics to confuse the enemy's collective intelligence. Colonel Murphy and his Marines would infiltrate the harvesting sphere to plant the consciousness disruptor at its core, fighting through kilometers of alien-controlled territory while the space battle raged overhead. Chief Engineer Petrov would attempt to reverse the polarity of the Ravager Stargate, turning their ultimate weapon into a gravitational trap that would consume their own fleet. Kane would lead the remaining ships in a desperate assault on the sphere's main power generators, buying time for the other missions while engaging the most heavily defended targets in the system. Each group faced overwhelming odds, but humanity's strength had always been their refusal to accept defeat. Park's diversionary force struck first, appearing out of nowhere to hit Ravager supply convoys and communication relays. Her ships moved like ghosts through the enemy formation, striking hard and disappearing before the aliens could coordinate a response. The human captains used their individual creativity to maximum advantage, never repeating the same tactic twice. The Ravager hive mind struggled to understand human tactics that seemed to follow no logical pattern. Each human ship fought differently, making decisions based on local conditions rather than overall strategy. This chaotic approach violated every principle of military science that the collective had absorbed from their previous victims, Murphy's Marine. Assault began with a precision orbital drop directly into the heart of the harvesting sphere. His 200 Marines descended through layers of alien biomechanical tissue, their drop pods burning through organic walls and mechanical barriers. The sphere's interior was a nightmare maze of processing chambers and conversion centers where millions of Calfani suffered in perpetual agony. The Marines fought through corridors, lined with the tortured remains of hundreds of different species, each one a testament to the Ravagers' millions of years of conquest. The aliens kept their victims conscious during the harvest process, feeding on their despair and terror while slowly converting them into biomechanical drones. Murphy's rage became a weapon as he led his Marines deeper into the sphere, their advanced weapons cutting through Ravager defenses like fire through paper. The enemy guards were perfectly coordinated, but could not match human fury when fighting to free the innocent. Each Marine fought with the knowledge that they were humanity's last hope. In space, Kane's assault group engaged the sphere's main defenses while Petrov worked to reverse the Stargate's polarity. The engineer fought his way through alien control systems that seemed to be alive, their biomechanical components adapting to resist his efforts. The Stargate was nearly complete, its massive portal beginning to glow with energy that could transport the entire Ravager fleet anywhere in the galaxy. The space battle reached incredible intensity as human ships engaged Ravager forces throughout the system. Park's diversionary attacks had drawn off much of the enemy fleet, but Kane still faced overwhelming odds as he approached the sphere's power generators. His ships fought with desperate courage, knowing that humanity's survival depended on their success. Inside the sphere, Murphy's Marines finally reached the core chamber where the consciousness disruptor was hidden. The weapon was a crystalline device the size of a small building, its surface covered with mathematical equations that represented the collective knowledge of Calthani science. The device pulsed with potential energy, waiting for the power source. That would allow it to break the Ravager hive mind. The breakthrough came when Chief Petrov successfully reversed the Stargate's polarity, but the process required massive amounts of energy to complete. The only power source strong enough was the Defiance fusion reactor, which would have to be overloaded far beyond safe limits. Kane realized that completing the mission would mean sacrificing his ship and crew. Without hesitation, Kane ordered all non-essential personnel to evacuate the Defiant while he and the skeleton crew prepared for their final mission. The Admiral set course for the harvesting sphere's core, his ship's reactor building toward a catastrophic overload that would provide the energy needed to activate the consciousness disruptor. The final moments of the battle unfolded with incredible speed and violence. Park's diversionary force had drawn the main Ravager fleet into a chaotic engagement where human creativity proved superior to alien coordination. Murphy's Marines fought their way to the surface after planting the consciousness disruptor, their mission complete but their escape uncertain. Kane's ship plunged through the sphere's outer defenses like a spear of light, her weapons blazing, as Ravager defenders tried desperately to stop the suicidal attack. The Defiant's hull glowed white-hot from enemy fire, but her quantum phase shields held long enough to reach the core chamber. The moment of truth arrived as Kane rammed his ship into the sphere's center, the fusion reactor reaching critical overload. Just as the consciousness disruptor activated, the combination of human technology and Calthani science created an energy wave that swept across the entire star system, severing the psychic links that held the Ravager collective together. The effect was instantaneous and devastating for the aliens. Millions of ships suddenly lost coordination as their crews were freed from the hive mind's control. The converted victims of hundreds of species found themselves conscious and individual for the first time in millennia, but they had forgotten how to function without the collective's guidance. The reverse Stargate collapsed under the strain of the energy overload, creating a massive gravitational anomaly that began consuming everything in its vicinity. Ravager ships were pulled inexorably toward the artificial black hole, their crews too confused and disoriented to coordinate an escape. Throughout the system, liberated prisoners broke free from their biomechanical restraints as the Ravager control systems failed. The harvesting sphere began to tear itself apart as millions of freed consciousnesses rejected their alien modifications. The nightmare that had consumed Kelthos Prime for months finally came to an end. General Morvain led the surviving Calthani from their underground bunkers to witness the liberation of their world. The old soldier wept as he saw his people freed from the alien harvest. Their suffering finally ended. Colonel Murphy and his Marines had made the ultimate sacrifice to save a civilization they had never met. Admiral Torres received the victory transmission on Earth just as her defensive fleet engaged the Ravager scouts approaching the solar system. The news of humanity's triumph inspired human forces throughout the galaxy to fight with renewed determination. The aliens were not invincible after all. The aftermath of the battle saw the formation of the Galactic Liberation Alliance, with General Morvain representing the Free Calthani and Admiral Torres speaking for humanity. Representatives of dozens of liberated species joined the alliance, their combined knowledge and hatred of the Ravagers fueling a new crusade across the galaxy. Earth's shipyards worked at maximum capacity to build the largest warfleet in galactic history. Human engineers incorporated Calthani quantum technology and liberated alien systems to create ships more advanced than anything the Ravagers had ever faced. The message to the remaining alien strongholds was simple and terrifying. Humanity was coming for them, and this time they would not be alone. The galaxy's age of harvest was ending, replaced by an era of liberation where individual consciousness would triumph over collective tyranny. The Ravager Collective had created their worst nightmare by forcing humanity to become the galaxy's defenders.